Yo, what's up, man? You look like you're somebody who's interested in video games. Now listen, I hear you like real man's games. I know you don't want all these pansy games like Grand Theft Auto 5, Saints Row 4, Call of Duty, Cooking Mama, whatever else. So what I've got here is a real man's game. And it is, of course, a Kirby game. Ah, Kirby games. I'd state for the record that there exists no more joyfully fun series of games than this. The bright colors, the ease of gameplay, the always enchanting musical scores, and of course our lovable warrior from another galaxy himself. Yes, they are at times criticized for being too easy, but I honestly don't see why that's a problem. More than anything else, these games are fun, and although there may have been a misstep or two along the way, all of these games hold a special place in my heart. Believe it or not, I was actually quite torn on which Kirby game to review. I've played through both Epic Yarn and Return to Dreamland a couple times, but it ultimately came down to one simple fact. Epic Yarn was not initially a Kirby game. It was just supposed to be Prince Fluff as the main character, but they added Kirby to help sell the game more easily. And we all know how well that turned out, right? Besides, though Epic Yarn is quite fun and stylistic, I feel that Return to Dreamland more closely represents what I love about the series. So does this Wii sequel remain faithful to the franchise while adding something new, or is it just another regular old Kirby game? Let's get this show on the road and find out together. Now, if you were afraid that the whimsy wasn't going to be laid on heavily enough at the beginning of this Kirby game, you can forget about that. We've got a picture-perfect opening day in Dreamland, followed by our protagonists having fun with each other. Must be a lot of downtime in the kingdom because DDD and Waddle Dee are having fun and Meta Knight's being above it all, as he typically is, I guess, when all of a sudden we have a mysterious ship open up from the sky. And in a manner eerily similar to Pikmin, actually, the ship comes crashing in and falling apart. Man, I can only imagine what is on that ship. Of course, being the good Samaritans that we are, they decide to check it out. Of course, hope it doesn't crash too close to the castle either. So of course the ship is in ruins, and on the ship we find Magolor, this little fella who we decide to help. As you can tell, his ship has lost all of what they're called energy spheres, as well all the parts are missing. So we are all kind souls here on Popstar, so we are in fact going to help him on his way. I like to think that it's not just because we're good, but also because we're like, hey, there's 4 of us, and a 5th person only makes it disproportionate. It's like a 5th wheel type of scenario. I have no idea why the open quotes antagonists of this series are helping as well, but no matter. We're gonna have fun going all across the planet, finding all the different pieces for the ship. So the race is on to find all the pieces and bring them back to Magolor and get him returning safely to his home planet. May not be the most original story, but it's still fun and enlightening, so let's hop right into it. Now, the first thing you notice right off the bat is that the game is very similar in style to New Super Mario Bros. Wii. It's a platformer where you can change up to 4 players at a time and all that jazz. Though where Mario only had 2 memorable characters with 2 Toads, Kirby arguably has the 4 most memorable characters to choose from. The only exception is Waddle Dee, though if you've played Superstars Ultra, you know that he is his own definitive character, and not just a throwaway. Now, 4-player is cool and all, the only problem is, I don't have that many friends, so let's do single player. Now, fans of the series will be happy to know that the gameplay has not really changed. You do still in fact suck up enemies, you do still in fact have copy abilities, you are in fact still able to run over gaps, and you're able to fly. Yeah, the gameplay is very, very similar, except instead of collecting treasures, you are collecting energy spheres. Makes a lot of sense. Now all your usual friends are here for copy abilities. You've still got sword, beam, fire, ice, hammer, cutter, etc, etc, etc. The new ones that are added, quite honestly, are what sets this game apart from the rest, both physically and metaphorically speaking. Some of the new abilities include water, which is useful for underwater as well as on the surface, leaf, which is possibly the best for shorthand attacks and blocking, whip, which turns you into Indiana Jones, basically, and spear, which gives you good long-range attacks. Now, how does the game really set itself apart? That is done with the very well done addition of super abilities. Watch and be amazed. Beautiful, isn't it? Yeah, this game makes the super abilities so awesome. There are 5 of them total. As you can tell, the first one is a big sword, Ultra Sword, where you can chop literally everything in your pathway. And there's this other one called Monster Flame, and you summon this giant fire dragon, and he comes screaming through and destroying everything. And then you've got Ultra Beam, which does this mega beam, and it summons it, and you can wave it around, and it totally destroys everything you want to destroy in your pathway, and it's so awesome. And then there's Snowball, and that turns you into a snowball, actually, but it turns you into a giant snowball, and you can roll around destroying everything, even sandcastles and everything. And then there's the Ultra Hammer, which is the best, because look how fucking big your hammer gets! This game delivers on such a level that I've never seen in a Kirby game before. This is the first time that the abilities have felt real, have felt epic, have felt awesome. That's exactly what these do, and it's so good. It's just a shame that you have to use it mostly on smaller enemies. Now, bosses in Kirby games have never been the biggest focus, and this one's no exception. Wispy Woods returns, but he's still easy. Primarily, he's here to show how bosses do in fact get tougher when you're halfway done with them. If only slightly. Yeah, even the more challenging ones don't get all that difficult. I mean, there's Wispy Woods, there's Mr. Duder, who's some kind of genie who juggles bombs. I'm not sure how that fits in canonically. We also have Fatty Puffer, who's a fish. And we got Goliath, who is a gorilla who lives in the mountains. I say gorilla, but he looks more like a yeti. Occasionally in levels you run into sphere doomers as well that give you 2 energy spheres when you beat them. This leads to one of the main bosses being the Grand Doomer, who is basically a buffed up version of these enemies. He's nothing too tricky, although to its credit, he does have a pretty awesome death scene. A tad over the top and over dramatic? Maybe so. Still awesome? I mean, you better believe it. Now we're getting into spoiler territory, lads, so if you haven't played the game and don't want to see it, don't blame me. So once the ship is put back together, we have to go back to this guy's hometown and we find this terrible thing. Landia is its name. And it is the boss dragon at the end of the game, and it's totally the end boss, you guys. It actually is kind of similar to Dyna Blade upon closer inspection. But if you see that crown on its head, that's what we're aiming for. So after you smack it a few times, pretty much he dies without a hitch. So we've destroyed a perfectly harmless creature for all intents and purposes, so we are finally the victors! Or are we? Now, I'm just gonna let you guys watch this in all of its glory, because... Actually, I'll say this real quick. This is what I love about Kirby games. How they deviate from the norm. And it comes in the form of the big plot twist. Yeah, he's gonna literally proceed to explain everything, but you don't need to see that. Basically, what happens after that is that Landia forgives us for completely destroying all 4 of its bodies, and instead it's going to help us ultimately gain its world back, I guess. And so, cue the triumphant music! Everybody hop on your dragons! And let's fly off and stop the now evil Magolor! Now that we get to pilot Landia, it goes full-on Gradius parody. Though we're no strangers to this in the Kirby franchise, thanks to the ending of Kirby Superstar's segment Milky Way Wishes. But after we fly through this for a while, we come to the ultimate battle. For what it's worth, Magolor's design is really awesome. Now, the boss fight itself is kinda nothing special. He's very similar to Marx, ironically, still from Milky Way Wishes, in that you go through different phases fighting him, and eventually you get to the end where, thankfully, we get to use our super abilities again. For these boss fights, I like the implementations of these super abilities. Yeah, we get to do the awesome stuff again, of course. And quick time events! Hey, at least there's only one, right? Now if that doesn't kill him, I don't know what will! Oh, of course he has a second phase. What were you thinking? He didn't? Yeah, then it gets into basically the exact same stuff again, so... Magolor is defeated at the end, after all is said and done. And it, just to bring one more point, in a way it is a very, very similar parallel to the Milky Way Wishes, not only in the original SNES game, but also in the Ultra remake. Slight spoiler alert, I suppose. They actually do have Marx, the last enemy, come back again as a stronger villain, just like Magolor did, so... Definitely some tropes occurring in Kirby, but for what it's worth, it's all good stuff. So our end cutscene involves all of our heroes landing, thankfully not dead, back on Popstar. Don't know how they fell from space like that. And yeah, it's a cheerful music, so don't worry, there are no more twists after this. Oh, DDD, you klutz! Everybody laugh at the fat penguin king, with a flower on his head. Yeah, I wasn't kidding, everybody laughs at him. And the dragons fly off into the sunset, and Magolor leaves. It's a little unclear as to what happens. I'm not sure if they take his ship away, or if Magolor himself sees the error of his ways. Maybe the crown made him evil, who knows. I hope he's not still evil, since we're saying goodbye to him. And the credits are queued up, and we have our Kirby game. There's no denying that this game is incredibly fun and enjoyable, especially with anywhere from 2 to 4 players total. Despite a few minor flaws, I could almost call it a perfect game for the Wii. If you've never played a Kirby game and are looking for a good starting game to the series, I'd honestly say this is a safe bet to take. Likewise, if you're looking for a Kirby game just like you remember from your childhood, this one will deliver for you on every level. It's just that good, and I recommend it to anybody looking for a new fun Wii game. Overall, Kirby's Return to Dreamland gets a 9 out of 10. Thank you all so much for watching my very first review. Hope to have many more in the future. As for now, let's let the troop of Kirbys take it away.